In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to create a symmetrical shield in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so we're going to create this in two parts. We're going to select our pen tool, and what we're going to do is, because it's a symmetrical shape, we're going to create the left-hand side, and then we're simply going to copy that and merge it into one complete shape. So if we left-click on the artboard, and then left click and hold it and drag. So we're going to create a curve like this. And we can just switch these around. So swap the fill and the stroke so we can see the shape we're creating. So as you can see here, it naturally wants to continue with a curve. If you hold down the Alt key and left click on this anchor point, it will force that to cut off, and then you can start with a straight point. So we're going to hold Shift to create our next part at 45 degrees, and left click. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to left click and drag and bring this in. And then we're going to let it carry on with the curve. So just bring this just a bit further out here. Left click and drag like so. And then we're going to come back in. And then we're just going to let this curve dip somewhere around here. And then we're just going to hold Alt and left click just to cut that one off there. Okay, so you can see here I've overshot it a little bit, and this one is too long now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the pen tool and the add anchor point tool. And I'm going to go along here. You can see with the smart guides, it snaps into place. And what I'm going to do is go to View, Show Rulers, drag out from the left. There we go. And create a guide that lines up with this endpoint. And I've just zoomed in here. And then selecting this, I'm going to go back and grab our Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm just going to add an anchor point on that line. So effectively you're adding another point after you've pen tooled already. Okay, so now we can select this endpoint with our direct selection tool over here, and we can just hit delete, and it will just trim that one off. Then we can go up to View and hide our rulers, and go up to View and hide our guides as well. We're finished with that for the time being. Then selecting our pen tool again, we can click on this point to activate it. Okay, and as you can see now, we can carry on where we left off. So let's just zoom out a little bit. And now, as you can see here, next to the pen tool icon there's a little circle. That implies that if I click now, it will complete the shape. So now what we want to do, we've got the left half of our shield, we want to mirror this on the right. So if we select the whole thing, swap the fill and the stroke around, and then we can go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place, and then Object, Transform, Reflect, and make sure you reflect it along the vertical axis. And then if you hold Shift to drag it along, with the smart guides still selected, you should see it snap in place like so. Then if we go to the other view with Command Y on the Mac, Control Y on the keyboard, you'll be able to see that it's still made up of two parts. And we can just select both of those, go over to the Pathfinder, and then click on Unite. And there we go, we've created our shield. In this lesson I'm going to be showing you how to create a settings cog that you might see on a lot of websites in Adobe Illustrator. And this typically symbolises setting options or preferences. Okay, so we're going to select our ellipse tool, we're going to hold shift, and we're going to draw a perfect circle. We're then going to switch the fill and the stroke, and then we're going to increase the weight. Your weight might be slightly different depending on how big your artboard is and how big you're creating your cog. Let's make that a bit bigger, I think. Okay, so now we're going to create the spokes on our cog. So if we select the rectangle tool and just drag and create a square, holding shift. So it's remembered the stroke that we just created our circle with, so we're just going to swap these around. So this is a fill rather than a stroke. And then what we're going to do is select with the direct selection tool these top two anchor points here. And we're going to get our scale tool and just holding shift, we're just going to drag those in. Okay, so this is the shape for our spokes on our cog. And we've still got our smart guides turned on, hopefully, so you can see here it's trying to snap to all different elements. But what we want to do is snap it right to the middle of the circle, so it lines up vertically. And we can just bring it up so it just pokes out the top like this. And what we're going to do is going to go to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste in Place. And then we're going to go to Object, Transform, and Reflect. And we're going to reflect along the horizontal axis this time. Click OK, and we can just drag that down. Now, you can probably tell from looking at this that this one is sticking out a bit further than the one at the bottom. So we want to make sure that they're both evenly spread out. So if we select both of these, holding shift, I'm going to go Object, and we're going to group them. So then if we click that, and we click our circle, we get these options up here. And you can also access them via the Align palette on the right. And we're just going to click this one here, Vertical Align Center. And you can see it just shuffles them into place, and now they're evenly sticking out the edge of the circle. And we can actually go back and Object and ungroup these now. Next, what we're going to do is select both of these. Now we know that they're positioned correctly and equally. And then we're going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place. We're going to select the Rotate tool. I'm going to hold Shift and rotate them 90 degrees. Then what we're going to do is select all four of these spokes. And we're going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place, select the Rotate tool, and do the same again, but just for 45 degrees this time. Okay, so there we go, we have our cog. The last thing we need to do now, if I select all of this, and using the scale tool, shrink it down, you'll see it does something quite strange. So if we press Command Y on the Mac or Control Y on the PC, we can see that these are all shapes, but this line is still a stroke. So what we need to do, if we select that and go to Object, Expand, and make sure that Stroke is selected, it will then convert the stroke or the outline into a shape. So if we click OK, there we go. So you can see now that it's become the shape as we saw it, rather than an outline. So now you can't easily adjust that width anymore. But if you select all the parts of this shape and shrink them down, it will remain proportionate to the other parts of the shape. And that's just best practice really to finish off when you've completed designing an icon or a shape. And the last thing really is to just select all of these as we've done in previous lessons, go to the Pathfinder palette and then unite them so that becomes one complete shape. And there we go, we've created our settings cog.